Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to do two first-person shooters for the Amiga. We're going to talk about Gloom and Alien Breed 3D. But before we do, Aaron, what is new in the world of Amiga?
Well, there's not a ton of new stuff, but since we've been gone for a couple weeks, there's a few things that have built up over the course of our off-airedness since you had the big interview last week. Good job, by the way.
Thank you.
I thought it was a real nice interview, and those guys are a couple interesting cats. A new Kickstart was released, if you can believe that. A new Kickstart ROM.
So is this 3.2?
It's a 3.1 ROM. It's 40.72.
Okay.
I looked at what they've changed. The changes are sort of there's a couple small things, but they did change the boot screen to have the Amiga ball on there, the Boing ball.
Right.
Some people don't like it. Some people do. Actually, I talked to a guy who was not a big fan. And
of course, this would be something that people fight endlessly about.
Well, you know, I guess they did it to say, look, you've got the new Kickstart.
Yeah.
You know, but So that's something. I probably won't bother to upgrade, frankly. But you know, I might. I don't know. There's a fellow that it's funny. I never heard of. I may have heard this somewhere and just forgot. There's a guy named Earrock. Have you ever heard of Earrock?
No.
Earrock is a guy who goes back and tweaks some of the old Amiga titles. He just came out with a tweak of Dragon Spirit. And I looked at a video on it. It looks pretty good. It's called Dragon Spirit SE.
I'm not familiar with Dragon Spirit, the game.
It's a sort of a shooter where you're on a dragon.
Is it a side-scrolling shooter where you're riding a dragon?
I think it's.
Or is it top-down?
I can't remember. Really, it's been a while since I played it. I mean, I've never been overly impressed with it, but maybe it'll be better now. But this guy's done a number of tweaks on some of these games, including Rise of the Robots, which that needs all the tweaking it can get.
Absolutely.
He added video to some parts of it. He changed the hit system on it so you can. I think it's so you no longer take damage when. I can't remember if he made it where you no longer took damage when blocking, or that you took damage when blocking. But the long story short, it makes it so you can't just beat the game by doing the same thing over and over.
Oh, okay.
Which was a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
He also made it so you can get to the end boss without having to fight everyone twice.
That's good.
So basically, like, he went through and made the common sense changes to Rise of the Robots that anyone in their right mind would have made in the first place. So good on it. He also did changes to Wonder Boy and Monsterland, and I think he did Guyana Sisters as well. I think that's the one I think I first heard about it was Guyana Sisters. But and they're all available on his blog site, and I've got a link up in the Google Plus. That reminds me, the next bit of news. Amazingly, yes, it took a while, but we now have. So you can't see that hand. We now have over 100 people on our Google Plus.
We're the largest community on Google Plus.
No, not even close. But for us, I feel like we're getting somewhere. Mm-hmm. Google Plus, and I like everybody on there. And it's not real active. Basically, I post, but I've noticed that more people have been posting here recently, which is nice. Your interview with the Oliver twins got me to doing some research on them, and I came across a site which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, but I hadn't been there forever, called Yoke Folk. Have you been to the Yoke Folk?
You know, they tagged us on Facebook, and I went and I explored their site.
Yeah, yokefolk.com. Mm-hmm. It's a Dizzy fan site, and they ain't kidding, brother. They got Dizzy stuff.
They are fans.
Yeah, so if you're in the Dizzy, you just heard the Oliver twins interview, and you're like, man, I got to get some more information on that freaking egg. That's where you get the information on the freaking egg, man.
That was the alternate title for Dizzy, by the way.
The freaking egg. I think that's pretty much all I've got. I mean, it's really been a slow week. I saw a few alphas came out of new Amiga titles that I have, but I usually don't cover that stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Do you want to talk about what's going on with? We're still hoping to review Defender of the Crown.
So, Defender of the Crown Collector's Cut.
This thing is rare.
Yeah. So
even when you order it, you don't get it.
You know, I ordered this from Cinemaware. It has to be more than a month ago now. I contacted Sven, and apparently the package was sent back the first time because it had the wrong zip code. It got sent back, but then it got returned a second time because it had the wrong address, just the wrong address. So he's informed me that it should be arriving on our shores within the next 7 days with the correct address. I'm really eager to get it because it's been a while. We want to talk about it on the show. We want to do an unboxing. So hopefully by next week we will have in our hands the Defender of the Crown box set.
I've seen on YouTube a couple people have put up unboxing videos of it, and they seem to be very pleased. I will say that. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it eventually.
Yeah.
So that should be fun.
Another Amiga-related thing that I got. Actually, I'll bring it over since it's sitting right here.
Don't believe him, folks. He's getting a refill.
I went on to the eBay and I purchased a new Amiga 500 case. There are guys in Poland that sell these for a ton, but there's I think this is a new outfit in England that is just, they're tearing down Amigas and kind of selling them piecemeal. And this has got the ports, and it's got, all of the coverings on it and everything. So it seems like it's in good shape. It's got a little bit of yellowing on it, but it's all together. So we're going to take our old 500 case and replace the top of it, which, as Aaron has relayed several times in the past, his cat's knocked over and destroyed. So we've got a new case for our 500. So watch out for the video of us doing that.
And you got a good deal on that too, didn't you?
I did. I only paid about $40 including shipping for that.
Not too bad.
Not too bad from England.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
Let's see what else. There is a new movie coming out for the Amiga. This has been talked about ad nauseum online if you followed the Kickstarter and all the stuff. The movie is called Viva Amiga. The trailer for the film has finally been released. And I've got to say, have you seen it?
I've not gotten to see it yet, no.
I've got to say, it, to me, and this is no slight on the Bedrooms to Billions people, to me, this looks like the better film.
Just from the trailer,
just from the trailer, because it seems like this is going to focus a lot. Now, it depends. Let me back up. It depends on what you want to get out of the movie. Bedrooms to Billions was very individual focused. It was very programmer focused. It was all about the guys that were in their bedrooms making these games.
Right, including Oliver Twins.
Right, yeah. Right. This is more the story of the Amiga. This is the story of the company, Commodore at this time, of the, the way that they broke into the European market. Pleasance is on there talking, and more about the company. And to me, just me personally, that's the more interesting story. I like knowing about the business, the post-mortem, about the mistakes that were made, the triumphs, the failures. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but definitely watch the trailer. It's all over. If you look at, I think we posted it on our Facebook page. If you just go on YouTube and search for Viva Amiga trailer, it's on there.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I still haven't seen Bedrooms to Billions yet, but my schedule will be loosening up in the next couple weeks, and so hopefully I'll get to sit down and actually watch a movie or two.
Yeah.
But I've heard good things, and I read some reviews of the trailer that seemed very positive. So you're not the only one that thought that. So that's good news. There's never enough documentary type stuff about the Amiga that I'm gonna get tired of.
Let's see, what else do we have? We have some side updates this week. The biggest news, well, I don't want to say that. There were several big newses. The first one, kind of in celebration of our Oliver Twins interview, Dreamcatcher has composed the review to end all reviews when it comes to the Dizzy games.
That's a fantastic Dizzy.
I mean, it has to be 50,000 words.
Yeah, he went crazy, ate bonkers. And I read it, and I was like, man, not only did I want to play that game, I wanted to go invest in some sort of like a kickstart to immediately upgrade the game. I was like, man, this is unbelievable insight in this thing.
Yeah, and he threw in a couple of Young Ones references too. I knew you'd appreciate that, being the Young Ones fan that you are.
I think Neil's a picture of Neil as well. Yeah, I love the Young Ones.
We got an Amicast mention. You know, the other Amiga, the Amiga podcast that shall not be named. They gave us a little. They talked about us a little bit in their last episode, so
they do a good job.
Shout out. Yeah, they've been doing it for a long time.
You know, that reminds me of something, just off the cuff here. Remember when someone wrote in and said we were the next show to take over the mantle from
that podcast that we couldn't figure out what it was? The Amiga Roundtable.
The Amiga Roundtable. And I don't think I've talked about this a couple weeks ago after that episode. I looked like a maniac to try to find some of those.
You did bring that
up.
Have
I bring that
up?
Yeah. Well, I still haven't found them. I looked again this week. If anyone's got a copy of these freaking
Amiga Roundtable,
man, shoot me a letter. I like to hear what these guys sounded like, and just because I didn't know they existed in the first place, so there might be something to it. So yeah, shoot me a note over if you got any of those. What else you got, Bo?
The last bit of side updates that we have, Gary Hucker, our friend in New Zealand, sender of the ZX Spectrum and the awesome New Zealand newspaper with the picture of that girl swinging a possum or whatever. He came across a huge Amiga treasure trove. I guess an Amiga collector had passed away, and his family had contacted Gary about there's some stuff that they wanted to sell. And I mean, boy, something like 6 Amiga 2000s, 2 600s, a couple 500s.
It was like a 3500
or
something.
Some weird thing.
What is this crap?
Not to mention, all of the software and boxes.
Flicker fixers and video stuff. And
there's a toaster in there. Just awesome stuff.
This is like that kind of stuff you dream about.
Right.
It's like, hey, I got some stuff to take home. You're like, oh.
And he is actually going to be writing a series of posts on our blog.
Oh, great! I didn't know about that.
Yeah, to kind of all of the cataloging that he's doing, all of the maintenance and the fixing and stuff like that. So look forward to that, guys. I'm really looking forward to. I love all that stuff. So he's joined the Amigos writing squad.
Great Gary. I enjoyed just his initial thoughts on it. And the pictures he had up were really interesting. You stare at this wide array of stuff, and it really is. I've never seen that much Amiga stuff in one spot.
Well, it's funny if we went to Goodwill or someplace and we saw one Amiga 2000, we'd fall over.
If I saw an Amiga mouse, I saw that SimCity disc. I about died in the wild. So it was baffling. But I mean, of course, we're not in the UK or over in Germany. But yeah, what a find! And speaking of the Spectrum, you mentioned that briefly. I have the Spectrum in my possession and have been toying with it.
Oh.
Now, and reading some stuff. I've got nothing major to report, but I'm on the case, and I'm looking forward to. I've been also trying to figure out what I should play on it. So there'll probably be some Spectrum stuff coming up before the end of the year for sure. I'll have something coming on there.
Excellent.
And we do appreciate that. We haven't talked about that for a couple weeks, but that was also awful nice.
Yeah.
And I will say one thing I have done with it is when people come to the house, I'm like, look at this, and they're all baffled. They're like, what is this? It's like, oh, this. So if anything, we've spread the word of the Spectrum.
That's right.
From hither to yon.
Yep. All over West Virginia, people are talking about it.
Oh yeah.
So what have you aside from Gloom and Alien Breed 3D, have you played any other Amiga stuff this week?
I have. I played a lot of Stunt Car Racer, the TNT version this week. I don't know why. That game is, for me, that's a game that calms me down. I don't know why. So I've played that a couple of times when I needed to take a break. I've played the Amiga version. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's an Amiga version of Spy Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, it's awful good. God, and I should know the name. I've seen it a million times, but man, it's a tremendously faithful at the arcade, and I like that. Spy Hunter's a tough game to translate for the home, but with the keyboard, they did a good job. They made it a lot of fun. So I played some of that this week.
Did Spy Hunter the arcade version had a wheel, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it had buttons to call your truck. And you had to. That's what makes. I mean, boy, what a great cabinet too. I mean, it was, to have the I think they had 2 or 3 different flavors of the cabinet, but they had all the flashing dashboard lights and stuff always like that. So I was a big Spy Hunter guy back in the day. I played a little bit of Super Frog with the kid. We sort of kind of killed Super Frog a little bit when we did the review, but it is awful cute, and it's a weird combination of cute and really hard. Maybe that's the problem with it, We also played me and my kid played. We've gotten into the whole Bonk series.
Really?
And the Amiga has I think it's called BC Kid. Is the Bonk for and it's pretty fun. It did a good job.
We may have to cover that on the show one week.
Have you tried that before? No. It's quite good.
Bonk is just like so many other the TurboGrafx games. They're games that always looked awesome. I remember seeing them in the magazine ads, and I never played them because I never had a TurboGrafx.
And Bonk is really clever too. I mean, it's a very clever game, and it plays great on the Amiga. I don't have it for the TurboGrafx. I know you're stunned because I only have 2 games now, or 3. But I also played a little bit of pinball, and I stand by our previous reviews. I go back to the first one most of the time, Pinball Dreams.
Yeah.
And I did it this week again.
That's the one with beatbox, right?
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I
That's
love
the
beatbox.
table of choice.
Yep.
I played a lot of beatbox. So yes, I actually played a lot of Amiga this week, just in little spurts. I am still suffering from that mouse problem, but I figured out some workarounds to kind of at least if I can play stuff without having to have the mouse. And I'm not going to be screwed even if I have to replace the chip or something in it. I've got the CD32 to back me up.
Yeah.
In case I need it. So, but yeah, what are you up to?
I haven't played any Amiga this week other than the 2 games. It's been a real crazy week, and I've got no excuses other than the fact that I've got too much other real life, as it always does, gets in the way. This coming week, I'm hoping to get into it, and there's just something about scrolling through that list of WHD load titles and picking out one that seems cool, and just firing it up.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, let's go ahead and get right into the games.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at Gloom. Now, I'll preface this by saying that I remembered Gloom from back in the day, and I remember when I first saw it, having seen Doom before on my buddy's PC and being very impressed.
Do you think that was why they called it that? Because people would just say, well, there's Doom and Gloom.
I assume so, yeah. Obviously, it was a super duper clone. But I have to say that when I saw Gloom for the Amiga, I thought it was crap. I'm not gonna lie.
And what year was this?
It would have been right when it came out. So 95, 90,
Because Doom came out in 94, right?
Somewhere, yeah, 93, 94. It's funny. My buddy had a PC, and I used to smoke him on games and laugh. Like, look at this. But the PC had been slowly catching up. I knew I was screwed when I saw Doom.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't think we can do this, and we really couldn't. Gloom, came out in 95. Its developer was an outfit called Black Magic with the world's greatest insignia or symbol.
Pentagram with a skull in the
upside
middle
down
with
pentagram
some
with
runes
666s and stuff. It looks like something you're going to bring a demon to you. They did really nothing. They pretty much the only thing they ever did was Gloom and Gloom Deluxe, which is an updated version of Gloom. I didn't look at anything but the original Gloom. I know they did some improvements in latter generations, but this is what they led with. It was published by an outfit called Guildhall. They didn't do a whole lot more than Gloom. They did Gloom Deluxe. They did Gloom 3. Yeah.
It's a Gloom factory.
Yeah, they did Legends, Minsky's, and Street Racer, and Strip Pot Poker, I believe is what it was called. It was some kind of nudie poker game.
Sure.
So this was high class. 2 players, simultaneous 2-player. I did not try the simultaneous 2-player, but everything I read, it was horrible. You often just would never see the other player.
Yeah.
It was the artist and the coder was a guy named Mark Silby. He's actually a pretty well-known guy. He did this game. He did Gloom Deluxe. He did Guardian. He did Overkill. Guardian and Overkill are both pretty well-regarded games. I don't think I've tried either one. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
But he was the guy behind Blitz Basic on the Amiga. Have you ever heard of Blitz Basic?
Well, it's funny because I read that on the title screen. It said that the utilities for the game were coded in Blitz Basic too.
Yeah. Blitz Basic is a programming language that
Supercar was made in.
Yeah.
Oh no, not
Skid
Supercar.
Marks.
Skid Marks, right?
Sylvie was involved in Skid Marks. Blitz Basic was a very popular programming language of the day, and Sylvie was a big driver behind it. I believe he ended up releasing the source code at one point. So I think for this and the sequel both, so that's pretty nice of him to do that. Blitz Basic is known to be a very quick, fast programming language, so they could do games and stuff at a quick clip. And if you think about it, that does make this game impressive. That this is a guy that wrote the operating system effectively, or wrote the programming tool, and then he wrote the game with the tool. So, but not bad. And this guy's got a lot of respect. He was a pretty big deal. The other guys on this game never did anything else but this and Gloom Deluxe. I mean, it was pretty much all they did. So the whole team pretty much came in to do this, as far as I could tell. Which would make sense if you consider that this is a game that would be, when Gloom came out, really, this was sort of new ground, the kind of stuff they were trying to do.
Right,
So, I mean,
especially on the platform.
I mean, the Amiga had 3D games, that sort of perspective, but they weren't this type. I mean, This is like smooth scrolling 3D. It wasn't like the step and the screen kind of goes, sort of like let's say your Eye of the Beholder, or to a certain degree your Dungeon Master, stuff like that. AGA game, you could install this on a hard drive if you had a 2 meg memory, which probably is chip memory to run it from the hard drive. So what's to say about this game? If you've played Doom, this is its pixely bastard child.
Right? I'm wondering if Doom is not quite as pretty as we remember it. Well, it would have been interesting. Did you happen to fire it up?
I didn't fire it up, but I watched some videos to have a look. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the highest pixel quality,
but it does look better.
It looks a lot better. Okay. Yeah. The funny thing about Gloom, though, like I said, when I first played this, I thought it was. I mean, back in the day, I thought this is crap. And trust me, when I played it the first couple of times, I was like, I ain't going back to that, and I didn't. I never played it again. But loading it up this time with a new perspective on the fact that they were able to crank this out on a machine that was not really
optimized for.
It wasn't made to play 3-dimensional stuff, and you got to consider that's sort of the knock on the Saturn, let's say.
Right.
And the Saturn, was around a lot later than this. So if the Saturn, and the Genesis even too. I mean, remember, Doom was no easy task on any machine.
No.
But I mean, there's no beating around the bush. It's Doom. It's Doom on the Amiga. They just basically, change some stuff around. The story, you're teleported to a building infested with enemies. You're a soldier with a gun. You go and kill the enemies. And
but your gun is not really even a gun. You never actually see your weapon, and you kind of hurl these orbs at your enemies. As you upgrade your weapon, the orb changes colors. But apart from that, there's no real weapon upgrades like there is in Alien Breed 3D, for example.
Right. You can you just basically run around this area, shoot bad guys, collect power-ups, collect health, collect ammo. It's open doors, very cunningly built doors, as we talked about in the pre-show with switches and lights, and they looked straight out of Doom. And rinse and repeat. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? The power-ups are usually in the form of bouncing orbs that look almost exactly like your shots.
Which makes it a little confusing.
So for a good while, Bo didn't know that you could go touch those.
Most of the time, things that look like your bullets that are moving, you don't want to touch because they kill you. One thing that I thought was that does set this apart from Doom is that in Doom you're fighting these alien-looking guys, especially in the early levels. In this game, you're fighting humanoid characters, and they are varied. There's the guys with shirts. There's the guys without shirts. That's the varies.
You're really grasping on that.
Yeah.
One thing that was interesting, I found an interview with Selby, the guy that made this. I thought this I found was interesting. So, during the interview, they asked him about the game, and he programmed this game but he did the bulk of the programming in a restaurant in Auckland, New Zealand.
Really? Shout out to our New Zealand listener, Gary Hucker.
So, of course, I didn't know that. But the funny thing is, the guys he did it with were a couple guys from, I guess they did the graphics. They were a couple guys from, I think it was Samoa.
Really?
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
You don't hear about a lot of action in
From
Samoa,
yeah.
or New Zealand.
What about Samoa Joe? Is he a wrestler?
He is a wrestler. He is a very good wrestler. But I mean, when I think of Samoans, right? Obviously, wrestlers come to mind. But
rugby.
That's exactly
not Amiga programming.
No.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of sort of awesome. The fact that this game has no ramps or steps or elevators.
It's all flat plane.
Well, according to Selby, it slowed down the engine too much.
The game does, in all fairness, aside from the way that it looks graphically, it runs very smoothly. When you're running through the hallways and stuff, it doesn't hitch. I mean,
it does. Yeah. Well, now again, it ran a little better on your machine than it on mine.
Yeah, depending on your hardware. I was running it, on a PC emulating an Amiga. But Aaron, you said it ran about 80% of the speed.
Yeah,
on
give or take.
Yeah.
There's a game hidden in here.
Really?
Yeah, I never found it, but it's in there. Something else, speaking of, since we were talking about Blitz Basic, two very successful games were written in Blitz Basic, and we reviewed one of them. Worms was written in it.
Really?
And the other game was a game called Hardball, which is a baseball game,
yeah.
which I used to play back in the day. It's still sort of around, in a new kind of rendition. It's not called Blitz Basic anymore, so that's kind of neat, But getting back to Gloom, this game's tough it's sort of tough to review, right? Because you're looking at a game like this with the eyes of someone in 2016. Now, I can tell you, like I said, when I was with the eyes of someone in 1995, I was not impressed. Again, I didn't know much about chipsets or the abilities of 3D graphics. So I look back on it now as sort of a programming achievement. But
it's not a great game.
It's not. So this reminds me a lot of the Street Fighter port. And don't get me wrong, this is a much better programming feat, but it's just something you're trying to do on a machine that it doesn't need to be on. The Amiga had its strengths and its weaknesses, and this was not one of its strengths. Unfortunately, this was the wave of things to come. And effectively, when Doom broke on the PC, that was one of the nails in the coffin of the Amiga.
Right.
I mean, effectively, that was you're showing.
Well, the Amiga was already done by the time Doom came out.
There were still people hanging on at the time, but I mean, you got to think. Up to that point, you were running a lot of the stuff that you could. I mean, you could still run a lot of stuff. Hey, Mortal Kombat 2 is pretty solid on that. You're thinking, well, that's not bad. Doom, when it came to 3D, that of course 3D killed a lot of systems, dead. Yeah. And so this was another one. It just couldn't quite hack it. So as a novelty, you could sit and play it, but I couldn't play this for any length of time. I played it on and off this week. And I would sit down and have a go at it and just be like, man, it's hard to even look at. It's just like a...
Well, there are some points in the game where you're looking out at a corridor and there are 2 or 3 enemies coming, and it just looks like a mess of pixels. It doesn't look. There's nothing. Yeah, it's just
I told Bo when we were doing the live stream, it's like for me, I would get to a point where you didn't even see like the walls or the decorations on the walls or what they were supposed to be. I just looked at bad guys and barriers, you know, and okay,
B&B.
I didn't even look at the decorations and stuff. It didn't work for me. So again, Gloom. I think the only now and the funny thing is, I believe this was the 14th highest game of all time on the Amiga, on the all-time list.
Yeah, but these are the same guys.
18.
These are the same guys that rate Lionheart in the top 5. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Well, this game is no Lionheart series. This was amazingly review-wise, this was a pretty well-reviewed game. It got mostly 80s and 90s. I read the article on Amiga Format. Again, that's sort of my go-to, and the review was pretty positive. They didn't outright say this is the Amiga's Doom killer or anything like that, but they were pretty proud of it. You know, times change, I guess. I mean, again, it's hard to go back and look at it with those eyes, but to me, it was no dice on it. I had to check on eBay to see what these things were going for, and there were none in the U.S. As usual. I think this did get an NTSC release, I think, but I've never seen one, obviously. You can get one in the UK, $25 to $40 shipped, US.
Okay.
So if you really want to go out of your way to get it, you can get it. Not here, but over there you can get it.
Well, let's. And you know what's funny? I was just looking at your list of Amiga titles. You know, Amiga magazines that had reviews, and it always surprises me that this is a year after Commodore closed up shop on the Amiga, and the Amiga magazine scene was still thriving in 1995.
Yeah, there were plenty of them. Yeah. Still plenty of them around.
Alien Breed 3D.
All right, released in late '95. It came on a couple discs, which I think these are. I think surely it came on CDs at that point. I don't think this. I'm trying to think if this would have shipped out on. Surely it would be on more than 2 floppy disks.
No, just 2 floppies.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, because I was loading this off the ADFs on the emulator.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay, that's right. Because developed by Team 17, and this was actually published by Ocean and developed. It was actually developed by Team 17. They developed it in house, and they didn't develop a ton of their stuff. They did the Alien Breed, the 3D sequel. They did Arcade Snooker. Oh, that was funny. They did Waggle-O-Mania. They did ATR Christmas demo. That was all the stuff they developed.
That's it. They didn't do Worms or any of the other stuff.
The coder on this was a guy named Andy Clithrow, and he only worked on this and the sequel, along with the rest of his team. This was it. The only guy that worked on other stuff was Bjorn Lynn, the musician. He worked on a ton of stuff, as you can imagine. Brat, Fantastic Voyage, Worms, Project X, a lot of the stuff that was a Team 17 stuff.
It's almost as if the guys that were into the first-person shooter programming, they were kind of a breed apart, where that was their main skill.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case. Well, I mean, again, if you're a 2D programmer, your skills are effectively worthless.
Yeah, yeah.
AGA game, again, first-person shooter, of course. This game was followed by a sequel, which I didn't look at the sequel. Did you have a look at it?
Just enough to see if it would run on WHD load, and it does.
Yeah, it's called the Alien Breed 3D 2: The Killing Ground.
Alien Breed 3D 2.
You got to keep piling them on. I had played this one a long time ago, but I really had no memory of it. And in all honesty, it's sort of more of the same. When it comes up, you've got I'd say about, what would you say, about 40% of the screen has Doom, or has the
HUD around
has
it.
the actual game, and
Right.
the rest of the screen is covered in like this.
Well,
I don't know what you call it.
it's a black border, and then it's got slots for your inventory, and then also your health, which is represented by a human heart.
Yeah. The game is very similar to the.
To me, this is more Doom-like than Gloom.
It's very well, yes.
Because it's got the enemies. They could have just stolen the sprites right out of Doom.
Yeah.
The key card system is not present in Gloom that I saw, but it's definitely present here.
Yeah.
The way the ammo looks very similar. To me, this is the Doom clone. Gloom is, let's see if we can make a game like Gloom or like Doom, but this is really similar.
Well, you're right. And again, this is another game we tooled around with it, and I knew I couldn't remember how to do it until Boat stumbled across, but I knew there was a way to make it full screen, and it's hideous looking. It's just as bad as Gloom.
Yeah.
So posters, they used to call it postage stamping. Mm-hmm. The game in a little window is the way to go. Believe it or not, it's almost unplayable really at the full size. Really, what can I say? More of the same.
Mm-hmm.
More of the same. The doors look just like the doors in Gloom. They look just like the doors in Doom. The bad guys look just like the guys in Doom, and it looks like the guys in Gloom. You shoot barrels. Why are there explosive barrels scattered all over the halls? Just cause.
The game, our live stream playthrough ended with me going into a pool of water and not being able to escape. I don't know if there was a way to get out, or they just wanted you to reset it from that point, but it didn't end well.
Yeah. The sound is good. Mm-hmm. The awesome picture at the beginning of the game.
That's probably the best part of the game.
Which with the Jedi assaulting the monkey from Primal Rage, which is cool. And it's a very high definition picture,
mm-hmm.
Which is cool. The controls. What did you think of the way it felt?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it felt like Doom.
Tell them about your original experience with the controls.
So with Alien Breed, it defaulted to mouse control, and so if you wanted to move forward, you physically have to push the mouse forward, you lift it up off your table, you put it back, and you keep on doing this motion with your arm to move forward. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If they had a like a modern first person shooter where you use WASD and then you use the mouse to kind of look around, that would make sense. Of course, this is way before that sort of thing. But kudos to them in some way to have the option for mouse control. The same goes with joystick control. In Gloom, you couldn't even look around with the joystick. You could go forward and back, but side to side wouldn't work for me in Gloom. And I don't know if I was doing something wrong, or if maybe you were supposed to use a combination of the joystick and the keyboard, but I couldn't get it to work. I could only go forward and back.
I thought this was the better of the two. I'm not even sure why. I guess it looks a little better. It plays about the same, really. This was another game that didn't run that great on my machine. This was a big seller on the CD32 back in the day. And this is ranked number 12 on the Amiga Power all-time list. So these games were highly regarded back in the day, but I can't help but wonder if it was highly regarded because they were so desperately longing for something.
Yeah.
To latch onto. And hey, maybe there are people out there that really, really love these games, but I've not met them.
Yeah.
I sit down and fall in love with them. This is not cannon fodder or something where you're gonna sit down and play it. Some 3D games notoriously age poorly, especially the early ones. And so that much said, it was smooth enough to play, just like Gloom. This and Gloom are eerily similar, really. Obviously they're Doom clones, but they run about the same. They sort of play about the same. The key card system, the doors, the barrels, the monsters, the sound effects, they're both about the same. So I don't know. I've got not much to say about it.
Yeah, it's really a toss up. I don't know. I like the orbs that you shoot in Gloom. To me, that's something that's unique. Like I said, the Alien Breed, the levels, and maybe they designed it this way, but it just felt really claustrophobic. You go in these hallways and they're literally large enough for you to go in. I felt more disoriented playing Alien Breed 3D. Neither one had just a key you could press to open up a map screen, which, you know, later games had that, and that was very helpful. But it's still pretty much a wash. Neither game is great. They're interesting from a historical perspective, but not something that I'd go out of my way to play.
Yeah, I agree. These are, of all the games we've played on the show. Whoops, sorry, fans. That dummy turned his phone off. Of all the games we've played on the show, this is the one. These are the ones I think. Well, amongst a few others that I don't ever see me going back to play. That much said, we were in the minority in terms of the way this thing was considered on the overall review zones. They liked it a lot. This thing got 90% across the board. It was quite popular. Like I said, it had a sequel. The sequel, I don't know how well it did, but I know this one did real well on the 32, on the CD32. In terms of eBay, on the other hand, this was a tough one. Let me flip over here. There were none in the U.S. again, although I know for a fact that this one was released over here. Box game on eBay. Again, this is Europe and the U.K. $25 to $40 shipped. No problem. So a lot like the first one.
Yeah.
So, you know, 3D wise, not great. We may look at in the future. We're looking at another couple of 3D games to give a shot that were a little more later than this one, and we're going to see how those. We tried to run them, but we just couldn't get them to run right. And so I don't know if we have enough horsepower. I know I don't have enough in the real Amiga. So.
Well, let's go ahead and close this out by thanking all of our Patreon supporters. I'd like to thank Graham W. Wobke. And Graham, if you'd like to write in and let me know how to pronounce your name, that would be wonderful. Rob O'Hara, thanks Rob. Paul Harrington, Laurent Giroux, Jonas Rullo, Kilborn Byerman, Tapes from the Crypt, Adam Bradley, Chris Folds, Will Williams, Daniel Bingston, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Chad Halstead, and Brent Dowdy. Next week, and if you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can head on over to patreon.com/Amigos podcast. We'd appreciate it. Next week, Aaron, it is your favorite. Is it your favorite holiday?
Yeah, I'd say it was. Yeah.
Halloween is upon us. And I figure we do our second annual Amiga Halloween Spectacular. We've been having a lot of spooktacular. We are going to pick out a couple Halloween related games and just kind of do another sort of compilation show like we did with the arcade games, and hopefully it'll be fun.
Last year's Halloween Spectacular was so successful and so well regarded that you know this one's going to be better.
This one's got to be better. The Elvira games, they might not have been the best choice for review, but this time we're going to do some ones that may be a little bit more well known and a little bit more fun. So, you got anything to say?
I'm done, sir.
All right, we'll see you next week. Adios.